Hello kids, let's start a new chapter, the Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan Empire, founded in 4th century BCE. The founder is Chandragupta Maurya. We are going to talk about Mauryan Empire, the sources that gives us information about Mauryan Empire, the rulers of Mauryan Empire, the administration of Mauryan Empire. So let us get started with the chapter. To know about Mauryan Empire, we have two main literary sources. There are two main books that will give us information about Mauryan Empire. The first book that gives us information about Mauryan Empire is Arthashastra. That book is called as Arthashastra. And the second book that gives us information about Mauryan Empire is Indica. Arthashastra. This is the book which is written by Kautilya. Let me tell you one thing. Other name for Kautilya was Vishnugupta. He was also known by the name of Vishnugupta. He was also known by the name of Chanakya. So Arthashastra is a book which was written by Kautilya, who was also known as Vishnugupta, who was also known as Chanakya. Who was this Chanakya? He was advisor and prime minister of Chandragupta Maurya. He was an advisor and a prime minister for Chandragupta Maurya. This book is a very comprehensive manual. It's a very comprehensive book that gives information about politics of that time, how the political situation was at that time. It also gives us information about rules of diplomacy. It also gives us information about rules of diplomacy, means what type of relation, what rule did they follow to maintain their relations with the other country. This book also gives us information about principle of administration. It also gives us information about principle of administration. It gives us information of principle of and administration and various political topics. As I already mentioned, lot of political topics are covered in this book. So Arthashastra, written by Chanakya, also known as Kautilya and Vishnugupta, advisor cum prime minister for Chandragupta Maurya. This book gives us information about politics, about the rules of diplomacy, about the principle of administration and various political topics. This book is written in Sanskrit. Let me tell you one thing. This particular book of Arthashastra, it was discovered in the year 1909, and today we have English translation also available about this book. This book today is available in English translation also. A very important book. If you read this book, you get to know so much about Mauryan Empire and also lot of things you get to know about politics. Very interesting book this is. So that is Arthashastra. The second book we are going to talk about that gives us information about Mauryan Empire is Indica. Indica is a book which is written by Megasthenes. Now, who was this Megasthenes? He was a Greek ambassador in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. So you all know very well Chandragupta Maurya had relations with Greece country, with the Greek people. He had very good relations. In fact, there was a famous Greek ruler, if you must have heard about him, of course, Alexander. So Alexander had conquered a lot of places in India. But of course he didn't want to rule them because his ambition was to conquer the whole world. So when he left India, he had conquered mainly not India, northwestern part of India of course. So when he left India, whatever places he had conquered in India, for those places he appointed Governor General. One such governor general was Seleucus Nicator. Seleucus Nicator was one such governor general. Now this Seleucus Nicator got into conflict with Chandragupta Maurya. There happened a war between Chandragupta Maurya and Seleucus Nicator. Chandragupta Maurya won that war. When Chandragupta Maurya won that war, Seleucus offered his daughter's proposal for wedding with Chandragupta Maurya. He got his daughter married with Chandragupta Maurya. And then he left for his country, but he appointed Megasthenes in the court of Chandragupta Maurya as a Greek ambassador. So who was Megasthenes? He was Greek ambassador in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. And who had appointed him? Seleucus Nicator. And now you all know very well who was Seleucus Nicator. Alright. So coming back to Indica. Indica is written by Megasthenes. Who is Megasthenes? Greek ambassador in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. Appointed by Seleucus Nicator. Okay. Now Megasthenes has written this book. During his stay in India, whatever he saw in India, whatever he experienced in India, about the people, about the kingdom, all his impression about our country, he has written down in this book. So this book contains impression of what he heard about India, what he saw about India, what he heard about people, about everything in India during his stay in India. Do you know original Indica had been lost? Yes. Original Indica has been lost, but its fragments are still surviving. Its fragments are still surviving because there were some Greek authors. There were some Greek authors like Strabo, Arrian, Diodorus. These are the authors who had written this again. So its fragments are till date available, which were they are available in the writings of the Greek authors like Arrian, Diodorus and Strabo. So that is Indica. Am I clear with both the books? Now we are going to talk about archaeological sources. Am I clear with the literary sources of both kids? Alright. Now we are going to talk about archaeological sources. Let's understand archaeological sources. So we have again two things that gives us information about Mauryan Empire. Edicts. Edicts were mainly issued by Ashoka. And Sachi Stupa. Sachi Stupa. So let us talk about edicts and Sachi Stupa, which are part of archaeological sources that gives us information about Mauryan Empire. So what is edict? It's very important to remember the meaning of edict. What do you mean by edict? So edict is a decree. Decree means order. Okay, order. Edict is a decree issued by sovereign. Sovereign means king. So whatever orders were issued by kings, those orders are called as edicts. What are edict? Decree issued by sovereign. Decree issued by sovereign. I hope everyone has learned the meaning of edict. Alright, let's go more ahead in this. So now, in Mauryan Empire, Ashoka had issued lot of edicts. So when you will read edicts, you will get mainly information about Ashoka and general information about Mauryan Empire. But in Mauryan Empire, there were three main rulers: Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara, Ashoka. So edict will give you more information about Ashoka. But definitely we get general information about Mauryan Empire also. These edicts are very, very old but very well preserved. Very precisely dated. The dates and everything is so precisely maintained that we get proper dated records of that time. Quite useful because they give us dated record of that time, very well preserved. The edicts are inscribed on rocks, on pillars, throughout the country, like throughout the kingdom. They used to get it inscribed on rocks, they used to get it inscribed on pillars. In fact, we have found 14 major rock edicts, 7 pillar edicts, and several minor rock edicts. Many small rock edicts have been found. Again, I will repeat, we have found 14 major rock edicts, 7 pillar edicts, and several minor rock edicts. As I said, they give us information mainly about which ruler of Mauryan? Yes, Ashoka. But in general, it gives us information about Mauryan Empire, main about Ashoka. Now, there are only 2 edicts, one edict which we have found in Shahbazgari and one edict which we have found in Mansehra. Except for these 2 edicts, these are the 2 edicts which are inscribed in Kharoshthi script. Kharoshthi script is a script which is quite similar to Arabic. It runs from right to left. There are 2 edicts found, one at Shahbazgari and second at Mansehra. These are the 2 edicts which are inscribed in Kharoshthi script. Kharoshthi script is quite similar to Arabic. They both run from right to left. But rest, all other edicts of that time what we have found are written in Brahma Lipi script. Brahma Lipi script, which is written from left to right. Now, you know what, these edicts also help us to understand about very important event in the life of Ashoka. So everyone knows very well, and the one who are not aware, we will do this chapter, you will get to know. So Ashoka was earlier very cruel. He used to wage a lot of war on people. He used to declare a lot of wars on people. Kingdom. His ambition was to conquer more and more kingdom. He was a bit cruel that time. Okay, people would hate him actually. He had tried to win over so many places just by declaring war, and he had won maximum all the wars. But one war which he had fought was war of Kalinga. Kalinga is what? Modern day Odisha. आज जिसको हम लोग Odisha बोलते हैं, that was called as Kalinga. So when the war of Kalinga was fought, no wonder Ashoka again had won that war, but he saw lot of bloodshed, lot of death, lot of destruction. He saw how the families lost their, someone lost the father, someone lost the husband, some lost son, the one who had gone in the battlefield to win. No wonder he won, but remember one thing, whenever the war happens, the death and destruction is caused on both the sides. Ashoka, after the war got over, when he saw on the battlefield so much of bloodshed, so much of death, so much of destruction, he completely changed. It brought a lot of change in his heart. He was so moved with this destruction, he decided to give up the policy of war. So whenever Ashoka earlier would declare war on anyone in his kingdom, to make that announcement that Ashoka has declared war, one drum was beaten. That drum was called as Bheri Ghosha. So whenever Bheri Ghosha, that Bheri Ghosha ka drum was beaten, that means Ashoka has declared war on someone. The moment people would hear Bheri Ghosha, people would get to know कि आज अशोका ने वापस किसी पे war declare किया है. So it was a war drum. But after war of Kalinga, he decided to give up the policy of war. He decided he would never take up arms ever again. He decided from now onwards, I will try to win over people with love, not with war, not with force. So that Bheri Ghosha drum was silenced forever. In fact, in his kingdom henceforth, the only drum which was heard was Dhamma Ghosha. Dhamma Ghosha was a drum. Whenever that drum was beaten, it was meant only to do announcement for non-violence and universal peace. So, one of the edict when you will read about Ashoka, that edict give this information that Ashoka has ordered that in his kingdom, Beri Ghosha should be silenced forever, and the only drum which should be heard in his kingdom is Dhamma Ghosha. So this information when you will read edict, you will get to know. Also, Ashoka after the war of Kalinga decided to follow the policy of non-violence. Earlier in his kingdom, so many animals were killed. Animals were killed for hunting, animals were killed for sacrifices to God, animals were killed for meat consumption. But after war of Kalinga, he totally decided to abandon the policy of killing animals for any purpose. So again in one of the edict you will get to know that Ashoka made an announcement that in his kingdom henceforth no animal shall be killed, neither for meat consumption or not for hunting, not for killing or no for sacrifice. So when you will read this edict how Ashoka, all this important event of Ashoka's life you will get to know. Let us talk about the second thing that gives us information about Mauryan Empire, and that is Sachi Stupa. Sachi Stupa. So Stupa is a semi-spherical dome-shaped structure. Stupa is semi-spherical dome-shaped structure. Stupa is made up of unburnt bricks and stones. Unburnt bricks and stones. The stupas are associated with Buddhism. So again let me talk about War of Kalinga. After War of Kalinga, Ashoka had adopted Buddhism. He had started following Buddhism religion. Stupa are associated with Buddhism. Stupa represent spiritual body of Buddha. In fact, at the base, it's a semi-spherical dome-shaped structure. So inside, at the base of the dome, you will see a casket, a basket. A casket which is containing relics of Buddha. So what all things are included in the relics of Buddha? So there are hair, teeth, bones of Buddha, and they worship Buddha. In fact, Sachi Stupa's foundation was laid by Ashoka. Sachi Stupa is located 45 km away from Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh. To enter Sachi Stupa, there are 4 gates in 4 different directions. In Sachi Stupa, there are carved panels, beautifully carved panels. And what are those carvings showing? The carvings are showing scenes from the life of Buddha. The scenes from Jataka tales. Yes, you remember in Jainism, Buddhism, I had told you Jataka tales give information about life of Buddha. So, the carved panel contains carving from the life of Buddha. It contains carving from Jataka tales. In fact, Buddha is represented in this stupa in different things which are associated with Buddha. So there is a peepal tree, there is a lotus, there is a wheel. So these are the symbols which are associated with Buddha. So inside this stupa you will see lotus, you will see a wheel, you will see peepal tree. There are 2 pillars at the entrance. Both the pillars are surmounted, means on the top of the pillar you will see 4 Asiatic lions, 4 Asiatic lions, sculpture of 4 Asiatic lions facing 4 different directions. And you all know very well this is our national emblem. So there are 2 pillars. On the top of the pillar is surmounted. What is surmounted on the top of the pillar? 4 Asiatic lions facing 4 different directions. Okay, now, so they are surmounted by capitals which is containing sculpture of lion. The most important of this capital is the lion capital, a sculpture as I said. So there is capital. Okay, on the top of the pillar is capital, which is the most important capital they have shown, the sculpture of 4 Asiatic lion facing 4 different directions. Now, also at the base of this capital, there are animals also shown. Today it is our national emblem. So this is Mauryan Empire, Sachi Stupa information. Now, as I said, Mauryan Empire foundation was laid by Chandragupta Maurya. So Chandragupta Maurya is very famous for his bravery. We don't know much about his childhood, but we know very well one thing is clear that he was working for Nandas. He was working for the rulers called as Nandas, who were the rulers before Chandragupta Maurya. But he was removed from the service of Nandas. Nandas had humiliated and removed him from the kingdom. So he had a lot of anger, he had a feeling of revenge from Nandas. Now, once he met a Brahmin whose name was Kautilya or Chanakya. He was a Brahmin. Even he had a lot of grudges from Nandas. Even he also wanted to take revenge from Nandas. They both met in Takshila. Coincidentally, they happened to meet and they got to know they both have grudges from the same people, Nandas. Chanakya was famous for his wisdom. Chandragupta Maurya was famous for his bravery. They both joined hands together against the common enemy, Nandas. And they both made a plan to destroy Nanda dynasty. There were a lot of battles, long series of battles were fought between Chandragupta Maurya and Nanda, and finally the capital of Nanda, Pataliputra, was defeated by Chandragupta Maurya, and thus Chandragupta Maurya laid foundation of Mauryan dynasty. As I said, Alexander also had conquered some of the provinces of India. He had conquered northwestern provinces of India. But after the death of Alexander, these places which Alexander had conquered in the northwestern part of India, Chandragupta Maurya reconquered them again and made those provinces part of his kingdom. To conquer those provinces, as I told you earlier, he had to get into war with Seleucus Nicator. Which are the four provinces which he had reconquered again from Alexander's Seleucus Nicator? Kabul, Kandahar, Herat and Balochistan. So these are the four main places जो Alexander ने conquer किए थे. And then after Alexander, they were taken care by Seleucus Nicator. But Chandragupta Maurya declared war on Seleucus Nicator and got these four places, and these places were made as part of his kingdom. Seleucus Nicator gave him back Kabul, Kandahar, Herat and Balochistan. But as I said, his daughter, whose name was Helen, he offered his daughter's hand as a proposal for marriage to Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya did marry Helen. Chandragupta Maurya appointed Pushyagupta as a Governor General for the northwestern province of India, for whichever territories he had conquered from Seleucus Nicator. In fact, at the end of Chandragupta's period, his empire extended from Kabul and Kandahar in the northwest to Mysore in the south, Bengal in the east to Saurashtra in the west. 85% of India was with him. He was ruling 85% of India at that time. But it is believed that end of his life, he decided to adopt Jainism. He gave up the policy of war. Last days of his life, he had spent at a place called as Shravan Belagola. He spent last days of his life in Shravan Belagola following Jainism. And thus with that, the empire passed from Chandragupta Maurya to Bindusara. We don't have to learn information about Bindusara. From Bindusara, the kingdom, but yes, Bindusara was also quite brave. In fact, he had defeated 16 rulers in south. That is the reason he was given the title of Slayer of Foes. Dushmanon ko marne wala, right? Slayer of Foes. Then, from Bindusara, the empire passed into the hands of Ashoka. Ashoka, when he ascended the throne, he was given the title of Devanam Priya. Devanam Priya means beloved of God. And Priyadarshi. Priyadarshi means the beautiful one. He was given two titles, Devanam Priya and Priyadarshi. When he ascended the throne, as I said, Ashoka fought famous Kalinga war. After Kalinga war, he changed. In fact, Ashoka's in the war, Kalinga also gave very tough fight to Ashoka. It was not easy for Ashoka to win it. It is said that in the army of Kalinga, there was infantry, there was cavalry, there were elephants. Ashoka had faced tough resistance from Kalinga army. Both the sides suffered a lot. But yes, the people of Kalinga suffered the most. Ashoka won the war, but as I said, it brought major change in Ashoka. He completely changed after this. So what all changes did come in Ashoka after the war of Kalinga? The death and destruction which Ashoka saw after in the war of Kalinga changed him personally, changed him politically, both. As I said, he silenced Ghosha, right? Earlier he was trying to win over people with force. He was trying to win over people with force. That policy is called as Digvijay. But he decided now to follow the policy of Dhamma Vijay. What do you mean by Dhamma Vijay? Win over people with love. He stopped winning over people with force. Instead of Digvijay, he decided to follow the policy of Dhamma Vijay. Kalinga also changed Ashoka's personal life. He stopped hunting of animals. He stopped killing of animals. He stopped eating meat. He abandoned the life of luxury. He started living very simple life. At that time, before war of Kalinga, the prisoner of wars were treated very, very cruel, very, very harshly. He started treating them with also a lot of kindness. In fact, he started telling them to do agricultural work in his kingdom. And that brought a lot of prosperity in his kingdom. Ashoka himself used to go to the tour of his kingdom to find out about the problems of people. Not only that, he would go to the kingdom, he personally would tour the kingdom, teach people about Buddhism. He sent missionaries to various parts of the world because he wanted people to learn about Buddhism. He had adopted Buddhism religion. His son Mahindra, his daughter Sangamitra, they both also did the same work. They went all over the world just to preach and popularize Buddhism. They mainly went to Sri Lanka. To do propagation of Buddhism. Ashoka embraced Buddhism. He made Buddhism as a state religion. He stopped non-violence. He did not approve any of the empty rituals on the name of religion. He ordered construction of 84,000 stupas to keep the relics of Buddha. He gave lot of donation to Buddhist viharas. Viharas are the rest house for Buddhist monks and nuns. In fact, he stopped spending money on military, because of which this money was being used for the welfare of the people. When Ashoka's power came to an end, his empire extended from Hindu Kush in the northwest to Penar in the south. Some parts of Nepal were also part of his kingdom. Kabul, Kandahar, these also were places which Chandragupta Maurya had conquered and they remained as part of his kingdom. And thus, that was the extent of Mauryan Empire under Ashoka. So now let us talk about Mauryan administration. So Mauryan administration, let me tell you one thing, Mauryan Empire was pan-Indian in character. See, it started with Chandragupta Maurya. Already we have done that Chandragupta Maurya was the founder of Mauryan Empire, correct? It was started by Chandragupta Maurya, but it had all India character. Seleucus Nicator, whom Chandragupta had defeated, had handed over in 4 places: Kabul, Kandahar, Herat, Baluchistan. All those 4 places were in the northwestern part of India. That means Chandragupta Maurya did have his power in the northwestern part of India also. Proven. Okay, also these 4 places remained with Mauryan Empire till Ashoka. That means they always remained part of Mauryan Empire. Also, at the time of Bindusara, there is a place called as Takshila. In Takshila, people had revolted and that revolt was crushed by Ashoka. And Takshila is in the east. That means eastern part was also with them. Bindusara had defeated 16 rulers of South. In fact, Chandragupta Maurya had spent last days of his life at a place called as Shravan Belagola in Karnataka. That means that rule had extended till south also. So these all fact clearly prove that it was not a localized kingdom, it was pan-India in character, it was all India in character. Do you know there are a lot of advantage of having all India character? I'll tell you how. सबसे पहले if you have all India kingdom, like all India character is a kingdom, is your kingdom, all the small states will come to an end. Secondly, you will be able to develop very good trade relations with foreign countries, because foreign country will never put trust in a small kingdoms. But yes, if there is some kingdom like as big as Mauryan Empire, they will also be able to develop friendly trade relations with us. Also, your kingdom will become very strong. And in fact, earlier there were only 4 provinces of Mauryan, but with the conquest of Kalinga by Chandragupta Maurya, even Kalinga was added to their empire, which became the 5th province for them. So, this all clearly is showing they were pan-India and there are benefits of pan-India. Now we are going to talk about administration. The empire's administration foundation was laid by, yes, Chanakya. He had set up a very efficient administration setup. If you will read Arthashastra, you will get to know entire administration of Mauryan Empire. In fact, it was so good, I would say flawless, that the same administration system was continued by Ashoka, by Bindusara, and then it was continued by Ashoka. Only Ashoka had brought one small change, which we will talk about it. Rest, the administration system remained same. Because Chanakya had laid very good administration system. In fact, till date, we follow a lot of things from that administration system only. But before I go ahead, let me tell you one thing. Ashoka had added a 5th province in Mauryan Empire. And which was that 5th province? Yes, Kalinga. Mauryan Empire was centralized. All the power was in the hand of king. King would love the kingdom with the same love, like with the paternal love. In fact, Ashoka had said in one of his edict, all men are my children in the kingdom. So king had absolute power. It was centralized monarchy. King had lot of power and king would love the kingdom with paternal love. Ashoka, there were many rigorous practices earlier, but Ashoka had simplified many of them with respect to administration, with respect to taxation, with respect to tax and crop collection. He had actually, I would say, simplified many of the practices, and that had helped to improve and increase the productivity of his kingdom. Ashoka had also appointed, as I said, there is one change which was brought by Ashoka at central level. So at central level, there were many people who were working, which was decided by Chanakya. Ashoka had added one new officer. We will talk about it. Okay. So first let us talk about the central administration. So the central administration was headed by king. King was the supreme authority in all the matters. And of course his throne was hereditary, goes without saying, correct? He was a supreme judge. King was assisted by a group of people, and that group of people were called as Mantri Parishad. Mantri Parishad, or I will also say Council of Ministers. Mantri Parishad or Council of Ministers. Now, the head of the Mantri Parishad was Prime Minister. There were various ministers in this council or in this Mantri Parishad, and every minister was given responsibility of various department. So who all were there in this Mantri Parishad? Pujari, the chief Pujari. The chief Pujari, the state Pujari, also called as Purohit. Also called as Purohit. Then there was Senapati. Senapati was a person, was an officer who would advise king on the matter of war and peace. Who would advise king on the matter of war and peace. Then there was Sanidhata, war and peace. Then there was Sanidhata. Sanidhata was an officer. Sanidhata was an officer who would be heading treasury department. He was a head treasurer. He was a head treasurer. Kids, I have made a very beautiful flowchart for this to make your learning easy, which I will share with you all. Sanidhata was a chief treasurer. Then there was Samaharta. Samaharta. Samaharta is a person who was taxation expert. Taxation expert. Okay. These were the main people. In this group, in this Mantri Parishad, Ashoka had added Mahamatras. Had added one post called as Mahamatras. Now, who were these Mahamatras? These were the officers who were appointed by Ashoka. This group of officers did not exist at the time of Chandragupta, at the time of Bindusara, because this new post was added by Ashoka. They were called as Mahamatras. So Mahamatras were the officers who were appointed by Ashoka, who would look after the welfare of the people. The main job of Mahamatra was to look after the welfare of the people. Of course, as I said, after War of Kalinga, he started thinking about the welfare of the people. At that time, he decided to appoint this new post of minister called as Mahamatras. Now, besides these main officers, there were other officers also who would look after the kingdom. So, for example, there was an accountant general. Then there was an officer in charge of agriculture. Now, for mines, for ports and for commerce, they had appointed superintendent. So, there was a superintendent of mines, there was superintendent of ports, there was a controller of commerce, there was superintendent for weights and measure. For three things they had appointed superintendent: ports, weights and measure, and mines. There was accountant general and there was controller of commerce. These are the other officers who were assisting king in central administration. What about province? So kingdom, excuse me kids. Now central administration was again divided into provincial administration. So now province, there were 4 provinces, 5th province was added by Ashoka. Yes, Kalinga. So now the head of the province, what about the head of the central administration was king. So who was the head of provincial administration? Prince. Prince, who were also called as Aryaputras. Prince, who were also called as Aryaputras. Aryaputra, they were the people who were appointed as always prince were given the given provinces, and they were called as Aryaputras. They were also called as Kumar. They were directly assisted. They were directly assisted by governor. Governor who were assisting Aryaputra at province level were called as Mahamatras. Now, Mahamatras took very active part in the administration of the provinces. And at the central level, Mahamatras looked after the welfare of the people. And the province level, they took active participation. They worked as governor for province, for prince. The head of the province was prince. Prince was called as Kumar or Aryaputra. He was directly assisted by governor, called as Mahamatras. But at province level, there were 3 main officers who were helping prince. So who were those 3 main officers? Pradeshika, the one who collected taxes. Rajuka, who did the function of modern day Tehsildar. And Yukta, who was a treasurer. Yukta, who was a treasurer. So again I repeat, province was headed by prince. Prince was called as Kumara or Aryaputra. He was directly assisted by governor Mahamatra. Mahamatras took active participation in the administration of the kingdom. They were assisted by three people, Rajuka, Yukta and Pradeshika. Okay. What about district? The provinces were divided into smaller parts called as Janapadas or district. Pradeshika, Yukta and Rajuka, these three people looked after district. Then what about the city administration? At that time, important cities used to have their own administrative setup. The head of the city was called as Nagar Adhyaksha. The administration of Patliputra. Patliputra was the main city, now which was the capital city of Mauryan. So the administration of capital city of Patliputra was looked after by a committee, and in that committee there were 30 members. So the 30 member committee would take care of the city, Patliputra ke liye especially. Now what about the revenue system? They had land revenue as a main source of income. The tax somewhere was 1/6 and somewhere it was 1/4. There were two types of taxes, Bali and Bhaga. Bali was a religious tribute. Bhaga was a tax which was levied on agriculture product, on the cattle. Bhaga was 1/6. Now, Bali, again I am repeating, was a religious tribute. Toll tax was imposed on the goods which were brought to the kingdom from outside for sale. Liquor shops, gambling, they had extra taxes. Whatever revenue was collected was used for the welfare of the people. And also it was used to meet the other expenses to run the kingdom. Chandragupta Maurya had a very elaborate spy system. He kept spies on spies. Whenever he wanted to get information on some important matter, he would not depend on one spy. He would get it from several spies. There were spies who always kept him informed about the working of the bureaucrats, the officers. Military administration. Chandragupta Maurya had a huge army. He had 6 lakh infantry, 30,000 cavalry, 9,000 war elephants. He had chariots, 8,000 chariots. The weapons used were swords, bows and arrows. At that time, king was called as commander-in-chief of the army. The whole army was kept under a military commission of 30 members. There were 30 members, military commission who would take care of army. Mauryan also had a very good recruitment policy. The soldiers were paid in cash. Mauryan king had built good, strong fort at all the strategic places. Now the last thing we're going to talk about is Ashoka's Dhamma. After the war of Kalinga, he started following Dhamma. Is Dhamma any religion? No. It's a code of conduct. It's a way of living ethical life. It's a moral value, moral law which you should follow to live a good life, to live a right life. That is called as Dhamma. Dhamma is basically, I would say, meeting ground of all religion. All religion commonly tries to teach what Dhamma was what Ashoka was saying in Dhamma. So what is all there in Dhamma? So Dhamma ke hisab se Ashoka said, always respect elder, love children, believe in non-violence, do good karmas, good deed, it will reward you back. Also he taught people, be tolerant to all the religions, respect all the religions. He disapproved all the empty rituals. What was the impact of Dhamma? Because of Dhamma, there was unity brought in the religion of the people. People started getting united. Because all started respecting each other's religion. They became tolerant towards religion. People started becoming religiously tolerant. Because of Dhamma, people started living a moral life. They started following moral values. Because Ashoka started following policy of ahimsa. He was encouraging people also to follow policy of ahimsa. Because of which people stopped committing crimes. Almost crime came to an end in his kingdom. And He stopped policy of declaring war, the policy of conquest. So he was spending money earlier on army. Now that money he started using for the welfare of people, for the public welfare schemes, for for helping people. Because of which there was a lot of prosperity brought in his kingdom. So that was Mauryan Empire. Thank you so much.